Hi, 7th grade. Welcome back. Today we're going to start a new unit, and it's going to be on the Aztecs, and the Aztecs are going to be located here. So far we have worked on medieval Europe. We focused on medieval Europe here. We also focused on Islam. So we're going to be in three places. So we're going from Europe and Asia to North America. But there's a story behind all of this, right? In 1492, if you remember from fifth grade, in 1492, we have European explorers trying to get to Asia. They're trying to get here, okay? The issue with that is that it's really hard to go this way because Muslims are blocking trade routes. Remember the Muslims, Islam? They're blocking trade routes. So it's really hard for Europeans to do that, okay? They could also go this way and get to Asia this way, but that is long and it's also dangerous, especially when you're traveling close to the sea, close to the coast, okay? So what is the alternative, right? They're trying to get to Asia to trade mainly. There's powerful empires at this time, and Spain in particular is very powerful. Spain is this country right here, and you will need to know where Spain is. Spain is this country right here. Okay, this is known as the Arabian Peninsula, and it includes Spain and also Portugal. So that's Spain. Okay, and Spain is trying to figure out a way to get here to Asia without going this way or without going this way. So they need to find an alternative, right? Again, this is 1492. The people of Europe at this time did not, or anyone in this part did not know. They believed that their world was made up of this. They believed that their world was made up of this. Okay, I don't know about Australia. I'm not 100% sure, but they believed that this was the world. Okay, so they're like, wait, if we go this way, the world. They knew the world was round. If we go this way, we'll pop here. Problem solved, right? But obviously, we know that this is incorrect. The people in Europe were not aware of this big chunk of land. Okay, they were not aware that that existed. So their goal was to take off here and go there and keep going, not knowing that this existed, and then pop out here. Okay, that's their goal. Their goal was primarily for trading purposes, okay, to make money. And it was led by, this person from fifth grade. It was led by a person that I don't know if you guys did the trial of Columbus in fifth grade, but Columbus traveled this way thinking that I believe that he thought that he was in Japan, right? He actually landed in the Caribbean. He landed there, but he thought he was here, right? Obviously incorrect. He did not know or was not aware that he had settled a completely different area than what he thought where he was at. Okay. Columbus was paid by, and this happened in 1492, was paid by the Spanish crown, by the Spanish king, to explore. And he did, right? He explored Hispaniola. He took some slaves back to Europe. He was not aware that he had settled or that he had discovered. And I use the word discover because he didn't discover anything. People were already living there, okay? But I'm going to use that word in quotes usually. He was not aware that he had discovered a whole new land. It wasn't until later that Europeans realized that this was a completely new piece of land. Okay? So the world is divided into into parts now. We have, this is from the European, so you have to kind of understand history in this sense is very Eurocentric or European based. So the Europeans have this. I'm gonna erase this line. The Europeans have, this is known as the Old World because it's old to them. It's like their world, and this is the New World to them, right? This is the New World because to them is new. The New World is made up of North America, and South America. North America and South America. Now, what if the people of the New World have discovered people in the Old World? Then things might be different, right? People, it might change. The name might have changed. So the big idea here is the Europeans were trying to get to Asia, and they accidentally discovered this new world that was them. Okay. Now, we need to understand. We obviously understand that there were people living in the New World, right? There were people living in the Old World. We studied them. We talked about the Roman Empire. We talked about, or a little bit, we talked about medieval Europe. You know, there's in Africa and Asia. So there's always, not always, but there's been people living in the Old World. But there are also people in the New World. And the question is, how did they get there? Because according to archaeologists and historians, people developed, or people first evolved into people in Africa. So this is called the mother continent. Okay? People developed in Africa. People migrated to Africa. So you have this migration, right? The first people, if you're religious, you're going to say that God created Adam and Eve, and you know the world was populated. Like I'm not. That's not what I'm discussing here. I'm discussing based on history and based on archaeology. People first developed in Africa, and then they started to migrate. They migrated into Europe. They migrated into Asia. They migrated into Australia. Okay, they migrated into Madagascar. How did they? How did they get here? Okay, and that's what today is about. Okay, so this is a caveman, obviously. So according to historians, people developed in Africa. Look at him run. In Africa, and then they migrated into Europe. They migrated into Asia. They migrated into Australia, and then they kept going. Now, the question here is, why are people migrating, right? These people are not taking planes, right? This is 30, 40,000 years ago, a long time ago. But people are constantly moving. And what I like to tell my students is, why are people constantly moving, right? My parents came here from El Salvador a long time ago. I can't tell you how long. But why did they come here, right? Why is it that that's been something that people have always kind of been doing, always moving from one spot to the next? So think about that question for a second. So why do people move? Usually it's because they need something, because they're maybe they're fleeing, maybe they're getting away from danger. My parents came to the United States because they were getting away from the war, right? They also came to the United States because it was supposed to be better here, more money, safety, better schools, right? For early humans, it wasn't better schools. It wasn't. It might have been they were fleeing another tribe, but for early humans, it was they were trying to follow the herds of animals. They were hunters. They were not farmers. They were hunter gatherers. They were constantly on the move, looking for food. Okay, so this guy is not just running around just because he feels like it, right? People are constantly moving with the animals, right? And when they get here, they're the same thing. They're moving with animals. Okay, but the problem is you can't see it really well here. Today, if you go here, if you go to this area here, there's a big body of water here. Like people did not swim that much. They might have had boats, but probably not very good boats. So there has to be a different explanation for that. And that's where the class today comes into play. So early humans. So according to archaeologists and historians, People developed in Africa about 3.6 million years ago. Now, this is what the ancestors of people would have been like, right? Humans themselves developed much later, right? When we say 3.6 million years ago, if you go to a museum, you'll be able to see what these early humans look like. Let me find out actually. Early humans. Um, so they might have looked something like this, right? Ape-like, and then slowly over time we become more human. Now, again, this is not this is not this is not based on religion. This is based on archaeological findings. Okay, so according to historians and archaeologists, people have been evolving for a very, very long time. So we start here 3.6 million years ago, and and these early humans start migrating, right? By 400,000 years ago, they are in Europe. And you see, I hope you guys notice these white things here. I want you guys to keep that in mind, okay? By 1.8 million years, again, 1.8 million years ago, if you look at one of those early humans compared to us, they look different. They're probably shorter. They probably look more like an ape, okay? By the time we have 21,000 years, this is modern humans. This is modern humans. You compare them to us, they look the same. 14,000 years ago, they get here. And again, so this is considered the old world. Remember the old world? It's just a different type of map. And this is the new world on the right. And people migrate, again, looking for food, hunting. They migrate and they settle the new world. That's the theory of how humans came to the new world. I'll draw it here. That humans evolved here. They went there. And eventually they cross. And this is the key one here. They cross, and because the world is round, they pop up on this side. Okay? And then they come down and they populate. And these civilizations, the ones that settle here, are known as the Native Americans, the ancestors of the Native Americans. Okay? So they had been here for 11,000 to 20,000 years before Columbus discovered them. Again, discovered, right? They had been here. They had been here. The Europeans simply did not know of these people that were living in this new world. Okay, so the question is, how did humans migrate from the old world to the new world by swimming? Like, I don't think they swam there, but let's find out. Okay, so sorry, I'm not gonna go over this, I promise. So Beringia, the land bridge between Asia and America. And this is a theory that's well accepted, but it is a theory, right? Where did Native Americans come from? The answer is they came from Asia. If you look at the map, you see here, they came from Asia, right? And here's this body of water that we'll talk about in a second. So Asia, and then you have the New World, and they're coming down, okay? And these are the people that develop into the Native Americans, okay? The big boo-boo. Question, why are Native Americans called Indians? Okay, why are they called Indians? It is incorrect to call them Indians because of what you're going to see in a second. Christopher Columbus made a big mistake, but that's another story for another day, right? He thought he had seen people like Indian people, so he called them Indios in Spanish, which is incorrect. They were not from India. They were not from Asia. At least not at that time. Notice, migrate is a root word for immigrate. Migration is a root word for immigration. Okay. There are different theories of how people made it to the New World. Two migration theories suggest humans crossed the Pacific Ocean to get to the America. We'll talk about that in a second. This way. One migration theory suggests humans cross dry land or ice covered on land to get to America. That's the more accepted one. That's this one right here. That people cross here. And we'll talk about what the weather was like at this time. Okay. So Beringia. Based on the work of anthropologists and by examining the artifacts found by archaeologists, the most widely accepted immigration theory is the Beringia land cross theory. So this simply says that people crossed through here. Okay, that's the more accepted theory, that between 11,000 and 20,000 years ago, people in search of food, in search of animals to hunt, were after animals, and they crossed from the old world to the new world. An anthropologist is someone who studies people and their cultures, the way they live and their lives. An archaeologist is different than an anthropologist. It's someone who searches for artifacts of the people of the past. It can be bones, it can be objects that people have used. An artifact is anything that was made by a human, such as a tool, a weapon, or clothes. So Beringia, we'll talk about that in a second. Beringia is a term used to describe the area between Siberia. This is Siberia. Sorry. Siberia and Alaska. Alaska is part of the United States. So the Bering Straits, a strait is like an area where that's open between two large chunks of land. Okay. The Bering Straits, water lies between Siberia and Alaska today. So there's water here today. This line. There's water here. I don't know exactly how wide this is, but it's pretty wide. There's a show called Deadliest Catch on the History Channel, and they catch crab, and that's usually where they catch it from. Anything named Bering is named in, I actually learned this today. It's named in honor of the Russian explorer Vitus Bering. So I'm gonna zoom into this in a second, okay? So again, this is Asia. This map is just different, right? And here is North America. So we're talking about how did they go from Asia to North America? They had to have crossed this area. But how could they have crossed it if there's water there today? Okay. So this area, this is the Bering Straits. And it's very important because humans had to have crossed this in order to get from one spot to the next. And the answer that people have is the last ice age. 35,000 years ago, the last ice age happened. Earth's temperatures fell, so it was really cold. Glaciers grew even larger and thicker. Sea levels fell because water was sucked up and frozen into the glaciers. So when the water, so this water became much more shallow. So because there and because it was so shallow, land was exposed. So I'm gonna try to pick a different color. I'm gonna pick brown. So land was exposed. Oh, I need to make this bigger. What's going on here? Land was exposed. So now you have a walkway, like a bridge from the old world to the new world. Okay. Sea levels fell because water was sucked up and frozen into glaciers. So here you see land being exposed. So you go from Siberia, the old world, to the new world, and people are able to easily, not easily because it's still really cold, cross into the new world. Okay, so 30,000 years ago, people began to travel back and forth between Asia and America, probably following animals for food. Large numbers of people moving to new places is called migration. People who move from place to place. So these people were not farmers. I don't want you to think that these people were like out, playing Game Boy or, listening to music. These were people that lived a long, long time ago, 30,000 years ago, right? 30,000 years before Jesus even. So very different. People were not farming at this time. People were simply hunter-gatherers. They're constantly moving, constantly looking for food. And it's not like they planned that out, right? It's one of those things that just happened, right? The last ice age allowed this land to be exposed and people were able to move. The land might have not been exposed. Maybe it was frozen. I'm not 100% sure on that, okay? So again, people are constantly looking for these animals. Animals in North America at the time of their human arrival. So 15,000 years ago, people began shifting further south Any so see. I hope you guys see this. So here's Asia. Oh no, I gotta change this. So here's Asia. So here's Asia in the back. Come on, go. Here's Asia, and people are moving. Okay. Again, these people will eventually be the ancestors to the Native Americans, and they will develop their own empires, right? The civilization we're going to be focusing on is the Aztecs, and they developed in central Mexico. And their ancestors are these people that migrated from Asia 15 to 30,000 years before. Okay, they moved further into present day United States, moved through the present day Mexico, and they went all the way to the bottom. Again, this is a long time ago. This is before the United States was called the United States. This is before Mexico was called Mexico. Those names are pretty recent, within a couple hundred years, right? We're talking about thousands and thousands of years ago when these people migrated to the New World. Um, so so what happens when the ice age ends, right? The ice age ends and the water levels go back to regular. So now the people of the old world, it's not like people of the old world can say, can we just travel? Let me find this map. Where's my beautiful map? Right? So the ice age ends. The ice age ends. So that means that the ice here or the water here melts. So now we have water here separating the old world from the new world. So the new world is isolated for thousands of years. People live in the new world for thousands of years without knowing of the old world. People of the old world are living their life until 1492 when they discover these people. Okay? This is a really, really interesting topic. I'm really passionate about because this is where I come from. Right? I was born in El Salvador, so I am a descendant. I am a descendant of these people that migrated 20, 30,000 years ago. I'm also a descendant of Spanish culture because Spain colonized this area, but that's a story for a different time. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.